our team does a lot of things. Of course, we're responsible for sort of the overall user experience at the site, but we're also responsible for all these things. So we handle a lot of things that go into the site. We have a pretty standard design process if you're into sort of how design meets code. We do wireframes, we do some graphic design based on that. We do a lot of functionality design, and then we do interactive prototypes. It's a big thing for us that we try to make something interactive very quickly so we can see how it actually behaves, and then we do focus testing and user testing on that. But it's a lot of things for people to handle. And this is how we do it. So we have, for the sort of geeky tech nerds here, we use Gulp for our builds, and Sass for CSS. And the most common JavaScript libraries that we use are React and jQuery. Of course, there are some others that we dabble in, but those are the most common ones. Have anyone started using XD yet? Any designers here? Yeah? Yeah, do you like it?
Yeah, but I'm used to others, so I need to...
You need to adapt? Yeah. Well, I think it's got potential. So if you have any designers here that are interested in looking at new tools, XD's got some potential. Yeah, and then I think Optimizely is interesting to mention for those who use A/B tests. It's a pretty good tool for doing A/B tests. And then of course Google Analytics, so we actually know what the hell our users are doing. So that's a bit about what we do and how we do it. But let's gaze into the crystal ball of the future of e-commerce and see if we can figure out where we're going. So our prediction is that machine learning is going to be a really big part of the future, especially for larger sites that can gather a lot of data about their users and have the capabilities of using it. And we have Mikkel from Apptus here, which is one of our partners who is, we use one of their products called eSales. And he's going to talk a bit more about that later, but it's sort of one of the big sort of engines that drives the site in a way. And the reason we think this is going to be a big part of the future is that it helps us to be able to predict and understand what users want even before they themselves want it. And there are so many interesting examples, but I think RankBrain, Google's new search crawler, or AI even, it's super interesting because it actually has started to be able to reason what you're searching for. So if it comes across a search term that it hasn't seen before, it can actually understand it and then make parallel connections, which is insane if you think about it. But it actually starts reasoning like what you mean by the search term. And then, since I'm from games, I had to mention some video games here as well. If you didn't know, if you were around for the Super Nintendo era, Killer Instinct actually had machine learning. So the AI in Killer Instinct learned their combos and tried to counter them, which is pretty cool. So it's been around for a while. And then personalization is a big thing that I think you've all seen it if you've been to an e-commerce site. It's issues like recommended for you or selected for you. That's usually based on some type of machine learning or some type of prediction. Like they can look at your purchase patterns and sort of reason who you are and then try to make recommendations based on that. We use Apptus for this, the sales. But if you've ever shopped at Amazon, they do it like crazy. Like they do so many product recommendations. And the more you shop there, the more you're going to find that they really start hitting the mark. So it's pretty cool. And then the next part is to be able to capitalize on these two is that you have to have a modular site. So the site needs to be able to adapt and change based on all this data. If you have a completely static site, it doesn't really matter if you can gather all this data because you don't know how to present it. Like you're still going to just present maybe different products, but the ideal would be to be able to cater to the actual user. And I mean, Facebook and Google does this quite a lot already. Google's new A/B test tool, Optimize 360, has some really interesting connections. So if you're into that stuff, you should check that out. It works really well with analytics also, but you can actually start changing blocks on the site depending on your user type. So it's pretty cool. And then user segmentation. Now, as a designer, you probably, like if you talk to designers, they talk about personas and target audiences and how important it is to know your user. That's all really important and good, but that happens before you start developing something. Like that's when you do personas and you try to figure out like who is this for, who's going to be using this awesome thing that I create. What we do is we look at the other end of it. We look at all the data we already have. Like we have so many people that buy things on CDON, so we have a lot of data already. And we start looking at that to go like, okay, so a person who buys a cell phone and a pair of socks, can we start pairing that person together with other people that bought similar things? Like a cell phone and a pair of boxers, maybe? And then start making predictions like, okay, what did these people have in common? And then we can use that to make the user experience even better. And then user participation is something that we're starting to see a bit more about. Again, Amazon is doing some really cool things here, especially with their Kindle. If you've ever purchased a Kindle ebook on Amazon, they have like an enclosed ecosystem where you can self-publish your own books pretty easily, and then it's driven by reviews. So the community themselves can give reviews on books, like any other e-commerce site. But the cool thing is that it actually starts influencing the personal recommendations. So if you start like following other reviewers, that's going to start pushing the type of content you see. So I got some really cool things. And then you have the beta and VIP access that you typically see in the games industry, where you do like beta programs and you invite people in and they can feedback the game, which in a way is just a marketing ploy to get people to pre-order. I'm sorry if you pre-order The Division. Pre-orders, you shouldn't do that. Really, it's bad signals for the games industry. But one thing that I think is really interesting, and it's Facebook does some of it, but Amazon does a lot of it, and that's the reward bug reports. So if you read an ebook, you can actually start sending in spell errors that you find in the book, which is actually kind of weird if you think about it, because you're not really used to be able to go like, oh, that's an error, I'll report it. But now you can, which is amazing, which means that you feel much more a part of the community and part of sort of making the book better. And I think we, e-commerce, can draw a lot of inspiration from that. And then finally, with all the augmented reality and VR flying around these days, of course this is going to be a big thing in the future. Like the new platforms that we can be on and have the type of shopping experience that we can create is so cool. I mean, you all probably know this already, but just the things that it's being done with the HoloLens and the Oculus Rift is so cool. And I think tapping into that is going to be important. So, a lot of you have been to CDON. So where do you think we are on a scale to 1 to 100? Well, like 1% is we've done nothing, we're completely lost, to 100% is like we're done, it's perfect. So we start with machine learning. Where do you think we are? 20. That's pretty close. I'd say about 30%. Apptus is really helping us out here. We get a lot of good data. We don't use it that well yet, but we got a lot of data. Personalization. Like, how personal does the site feel? Does it adapt to you when you get there? Does it feel like it knows you? Do you feel loved by the site? Not really. No. We're at like 15%. Of course, these are just numbers pulled out of the air, but that's sort of my gut feeling. It's like we got like 85% of the way to go. We do some of it. We have personal recommendations, but there's so much more we can tap into. And that's also because modular site. I'm not going to even ask you to guess because it's not very modular. It's a bit of a monolith. But you remember, Magnus said that we started as an e-commerce site in 2000 and was it 2000? Yeah, exactly, 99. And that's 17 years ago when we started like developing the site. There's a lot of legacy. So we got a lot of experience. We've been around the block, but some of the infrastructure and the technology is maybe not up to date. So that's what we're working on updating. And then user segmentation, we do fairly well. We're actually pretty good at knowing our users depending on the different categories we have on the page. So we're fairly accurate in like making campaigns directed to the correct target, like audience for perfumes or for clothes or for home electronics or all the things that we sell. But the problem is that we're not really capitalizing on all the data we have. So yes, we're good at sort of digging through the data. We're not that good at using it yet. So how about user participation? Did you feel like you could participate to the evolvement of CDON when you were there? Really? Not really. You can make reviews on the site. I will say that. That is entirely possible, but not much more. And this is an area that we're going to be looking at heavily, because being a marketplace, it's really important to engage the community. You can see that with Amazon, with AliExpress, etc. What they do is they tap into making the merchants, the stores within the store, they tap into them being much more collaborative with the actual user. So that connection needs to be facilitated by us. And then new platforms. Have you seen our VR site? It's pretty, no. Eh? No. We have an Oculus Rift in the office. That's why we're at 1%. I mean, shopping with VR isn't really there yet. But when it's there, we're going to be there. All right. So now, yeah. Yeah, sure.
How would that work?
With VR, you walk around. I think the biggest thing, like for VR, I think having a 360 experience, where you can actually start browsing products with using both hands at the same time and just look around. Yeah, well, that's where we come in, right? We make that navigable. Navigable? Navigatable. What he said. But yeah, it's a bit of a challenge.
You can take products on, you can feel them, you can experience them.
Yep.
It's like,
Exactly.
it's like going back to coming into an ordinary shop.
Except it's faster, because you don't have to actually physically walk. You can just teleport there.
So with bigger assortment.
Much bigger assortment. All right. So that's our sort of idea of the future and our vision of the future. So I think that we think that's where e-commerce is heading. But where do we, CDON and UX within CDON, what do we think? Well, that's where this comes in, the immersive online shopping experience. Now, before we go into the actual, me talking about our vision and all the fluffy words that comes with it, first, immersion. It means to be deeply mentally involved in something. And all sort of entertainment media strives for this. Like games, this is the holy grail. If you make a game that's immersive, then you can do a lot of things wrong, but it's going to be good, because the user's going to be sort of part of the game. It's going to forget about the world around you. Same thing with books, or music, or movies. A good movie, you forget that you're actually in your living room or in a cinema. So that's what immersion is. So how can we translate that concept, to shopping? And why should we actually translate this to shopping? Will it blend? Well, first of all, shopping is infinitely more difficult than gaming, or watching a movie, or reading a book. Well, you have to read to be able, maybe not as difficult if you don't know the language, but you get my idea. And the reason for this is that games, you've already bought in to the concept of the game when you start playing. Like you have a controller maybe, you want to play the game, so then you play the game. If you don't like it, you just quit. But for shopping, for us, it's paramount that we get you through the entire experience and get you to actually purchase, which from a design point of view, if I compare my work now with in games, is so much harder. I thought it was going to be easy. It's not. It's really hard. And that's why there's so many hurdles, and it's important decisions that you're asking the user to do. It's not like, yeah, you get to a new level in a game. It's like, yeah, give us your money and trust us to deliver products to you. So we have to make that entire journey really, really nice. So when we talk about immersive online shopping, that's what we're after. A seamless, personalized experience where if you want to go in and shop a new fridge, a stove, and a pair of shoes, that experience needs to work. Like you need to be able to go from the store where you buy the fridge to the store where you buy the shoe seamlessly. Otherwise, we've failed. And that experience needs to be personal for you. Otherwise, what's the point? I mean, why do you come to CDON to shop? Well, we want that experience to be awesome for you. So it needs to be personal. We need to be able to predict, yeah, that's the fridge you want. And these shoes go excellent with the matte black finish of that fridge. And then no friction and no barriers. And I can't stress this enough because we have something that like physical stores don't. Well, most of them at least. They can't rearrange their entire store to serve a single user. We can. We have that ability. So when you enter CDON, we can actually shuffle things around. That technology exists. So the store is actually for you. It knows who you are. It welcomes you back. And there's no like friction and barriers in the experience. There's no annoying store clerks that come up and ask you like, how's your day? Like, that won't happen because we'll know exactly how much annoying we can be before you stop shopping with us. That's the idea. And with the site, it's also important that, and it's more for us to think about, that the site should serve the user, not the other way around, which is a fairly obvious statement, maybe. But for us, it also means that we have to cater to the user in all cases. Like the user can never be wrong. So even if it inputs something wrong, we need to be graceful about that. We also need to make sure that the user feels welcome. And not a lot of sites do this today. Like, welcome back. How are you doing? Nice weather today. Like there's very little personal interaction, and we can do so much more there. And then, of course, it also needs to be responsive and tactile. And for the web developers here, responsive, it doesn't mean it's only for it works on mobile automatically. I come from games. It means that it actually, you get a good response when you click a button. I had to relearn my entire vocabulary. I was like, yeah, we'll make it responsive. And it was like, yeah, it's going to work on a mobile. I was like, no. When you click a button, it should feel good. So yeah, but that's really important. And again, it's something that a lot of sites don't do really well. Like when you're actually interacting with the site, you want a nice feedback. Like if you ever picked up an iPhone or used any Apple product really, they do this really, really well. Like the feedback you get back is amazing. And why shouldn't we do that, right? Why shouldn't we make sure that every interaction on the site feels really, really good? Because if you compare it to the physical stores again, what separates a good physical store, like a good, like if you've ever been into a Victoria's Secret store, what separates that from H&M is that in a Victoria's Secret store, you feel really welcome, everything looks really nice, and walking around feels good. In an H&M store, they go a completely different direction. That's like Swedish functionality. It's like, no, you can find your t-shirts over here. It's right there. That's the difference. So what we're going for is Victoria's Secret of e-commerce. Maybe that should have been like, instead of immersive online shopping, it's like Victoria's Secret for e-commerce. All right. And then finally, I can't leave this out because I'm a designer, so I have to say, hey, it should feel good and look good. But it's hard to define what actually feels good and what looks good. But I think, again, it's something that a lot of e-commerce sites forget. Like the actual tactile experience and the experience from the user's end should feel good and should look good. Right. So now I talked a lot. So now you're going to see pretty pictures, and then I'm going to stop talking. So I'm going to give you a glimpse into what the future could look like. So for those who don't know, this is CDON today. Holy crap, that's blurry. So it's not this blurry when you look at it on your screen. So this is CDON today. And what the future could look like is something like this. And what the hell? Intermission. Someone like one of those atom bomb warning signals. All right, fuck it. I'll have some alcohol. Cheers.
So this was the future.
This is the future. It all ends. Loud klaxons, death and destruction. This is the sound of the future.
The sound will finish.
It's time to buy. It's very immersive.
Yeah. Thank you.
That's a good experience.
That's a great experience.
Wake me up a bit.
Yeah. I was droning on and on. I could feel you falling asleep, so I made the cue to start the alarm so you all woke up. All right, so I'm sorry about the image here. It's not, the projector isn't really capturing all the contrast. I'm sorry, Josef. It looked much nicer before. But anyways, the idea here is that you have all the different categories we have readily accessible. And this is what we see as an unpersonalized start page. So this is someone who hasn't been to CDON before. You see here, you're not logged in, and we don't know anything really about the user. So this is sort of the default. And now I log in. So you can see how it changes and adapts to me. So clearly, I'm into checkered shirts because I have one on me, so proof in the pudding. But you can see here that like the products that I'm interested in actually start rising up. And even the campaigns, we start picking out products that are for you. And we want to go even so far that the categories up here actually changes depending on what you're interested in. So the site will actually know, okay, you're into games, we know that. You're into fashion, and you're into movies. So then it's going to actually adapt the entire site based on that. Still, everything's readily accessible. And this sort of translates down all the way. So if I go into fashion, I don't need to initially click that I'm male, because eventually the site will just know. Like, yeah, based on your purchase history, we can start predicting that you're actually of the male gender, and then start pushing products that way. That's the idea.
There you have a challenge because most male clothes is bought by the woman online.
Yes, but then we can also look at all the other purchase history of the user. But yeah, I mean, to say that there aren't challenges involved would be a gross understatement. I mean, there are so many challenges here. But just imagine that. I think this is going to be the future. You're going to see this more and more. When you go to Amazon, or when you start going to Facebook, etc., all the big sites, they're going to start using this more and more to make sure that the entire site fits you. Because technology has made it possible for us to actually do this. We can build all this in modules and then start changing them out. And then the step after this, of course, is to make sure that each segment here is much more targeted for the actual user, so we can start changing things more radically. But this is still like within 1, 2, 3 years. Right, so that's it for me. Thank you for listening. Now, Apptus.
My name is Michael Ericsson. I'm working at Apptus, which is a technology company based in Lund. We have been working with CDON for quite many years and are a provider of, technology for some of the things that you have seen being presented by Axel, like search and recommendations and personalization. I thought I would just give you some insights on how we work with that, the data we have today, and also some glimpse into the future of how we think we can help with the immersive online shopping. And feel free to ask questions whenever you want to. It's just even better. Okay, so this is his name is Stefan. When he enters the store, we need to have some sort of data point to be able to see who he is and what he wants, etc. We can actually make that decision as fast as with the first click. We can start seeing what his intentions are. It's that fast. It's not the best with one click, but it's very fast to be able to see what his intention is now compared to what he has done before. First off, of course, we need to have product data. We can't give any suggestions or try to figure out what he wants to do or purchase without having some sort of data put into the system when it comes to products. And also, content data. This is something I believe will increase quite a lot. And you sir were onto something there with the amount of content data that you can actually put into the algorithms, trying to figure out, or giving them the incentive to buy. Like, if you talk about virtual reality, to be able to see videos of this product being used with other customers, etc. Today, content data is sort of like campaign pages and or banner ads or something like that. But I think we will see a lot more data compared to content of this product in the future. So this is the basis, right? And then of course we collect behavioral data. There's a lot of behavioral data being collected. The most common people think about is what have been clicked, what I have clicked on, what I have added to my cart, and what I have purchased. And that is active data, right? That's something that you actively do. What we also do is we look at all the things that we have shown you. So we are trying to see if you're not interested in this, we shouldn't show it anymore. We should show something else. And that's a ton of more data than actually the actions that you do. So to give an example of, I will get into more data sources in just a few minutes, but to get a glimpse of what we do with the behavior, but just this is the information we have today. Product data, content data, and behavioral data. That's it. And just to show you what you can do, take something as simple as a top list. Everyone knows how a top list works, right? Well, at least I thought I did. It's not that simple. Well, it could be simple, but if you want to make it good, it's not that simple. So, first off, you need to have product, right? And you need to have purchases to make a top list. But you also need to have time, and that's where it's tricky. How far back is good time? Or should you have a specific amount of time? Or how do you review time? How important is a purchase being done now compared to yesterday or last week? So what we do when it comes to just the top list, one of the features that we have is the first place is extremely trend sensitive. So it looks on a very, very short time based. And also compared to what kind of product is it? Do we want to show like a lawnmower? CDON has them. Or do you want to show a book? CDON has those too. Like one lawnmower is the same amount of money as, and compared to how many it being purchased as, I don't know, 1,000 books or 100 books or whatever, depending on the price on the lawnmower, of course. But it's really hard to say, okay, so which one is the best to put up there? So the first position is very, very trend sensitive. The second place is also the same. The third place is where it becomes interesting, because then we need to weight in trend sensitivity compared to a long time of purchases. And to be able to do this, we need to have lots of data, and we need to have a multiple amount of algorithms to be able to do this. So what actually happens here is that for each and every position on the top list, we have multiple algorithms that are competing for that space. So when one algorithm wins and being predicted to have the most likely possible of being at the top list and doing a good sell, that one is removed, and then every algorithm needs to compete again to be able to win the second place, and this goes on. And of course, it's quite simple when it comes to first, second, third, but the further down you get, it's harder and harder, right? And hence the personalization problem. Because here we have all the data, everyone visiting, everyone purchasing, but here we only have you. So the amount of data to be able to work with here is very little compared to doing a top list. The same thing goes here. To be able to recommend one product for you, or one type of banner ad or something for the information we have is pretty simple. But it's when we come to now being able to present a whole personalized website, that's where the tricky part is. Someone mentioned Amazon and how good they are. One of the big reasons why Amazon is pretty good at it, it's not the algorithms behind it, it's the data, the amount of data. The more data you have, the more simple algorithms you can have, and the less amount of algorithms you can have also. So data is the issue. Do we have data? Of course we have data. The problem is, how do we use it? How can we collect it and how can we use it? And so for us, we see that one of the big missions of being able to have a really good personalized or immersive online shopping experience is to be able to collect or use data from different sources. And here are some examples of the sources that might be used. Like we have talked about it, location, right? should we present something if you are based in northern Sweden compared to southern Sweden? Yeah, probably, since we have like a real different seasonality in Sweden. Of course, also, if you are shopping at CDON, but you are now sitting in Spain, maybe we should show something else, right? It's not that hard to get. We have it on our cell phone, for example, yeah? Weather, also, of course. Should we increase the price of umbrella when we see that it's raining where you are? Or should we decrease to be able to sell more umbrellas? Weather is something that we have been talking about quite long as an input to algorithms. And together with where you are, it can make some really interesting recommendations. Time of day. So if you're on the bus traveling, right, we see that you're moving. Early in the morning, the same route that you usually take, you're probably on your way to work. So we should maybe show something that is really easy to buy. Compared to if we see that, okay, you are sitting in your couch now, at home. So maybe now we can show the lawnmower instead of the book. Social media. And this is where it gets really interesting. If we can tap in, and by the way, people are kind of doing this. We don't know how much. Some say they sell a lot of information, and some say they can't. But they have a lot of data. For example, Facebook. Facebook know how the status of your marriage is. They can see your patterns. They can see if you're depressed, or at least if you are not, no smiley faces. Okay, usually smiley faces, now no smiley faces. They know a lot of your whole social pattern and information about you. YouTube knows that I'm extremely nerdy when it comes to some technical stuff, like cameras and like some kite surfing equipment. That's my big life. They also know that I'm absolutely adore My Little Pony and One Direction. No, they actually know that my kids love them. Of course, they can make that decision. No problem at all. For Pinterest, I don't think I have seen anyone with Pinterest that doesn't have like things I'd like to buy board on their Pinterest, right? They know what you want to buy. That information is out there. I also read that Snapchat has a feature of how fast you're traveling. And people think that that's Snapchat's feature. It's not. It's your cell phone. This one is logging all the time how fast you're moving and where you are, etc. It's just that not everyone can use it, right? And it goes on, of course, with the amount of social media data that there is. As I said, we don't know exactly how we can use this today or what we should use it for, but there's a lot of data there. Also, there are other amounts of data that you can, that has been collected around you. Like, it's not that common in Sweden, I don't think, but especially in the States, there are cameras along the roads everywhere. They know where you are, they know where your car goes, how fast it goes, and where you usually go. So if you have a direction that you usually don't take, they know about it, right? And there's a feature called Incognito Mode you can do when you're browsing. Doesn't matter for these guys. They know exactly what you browse for. They have the information. It's just lucky that they don't sell that information to, like, I don't know, how fast you're moving. Of course, the cops would like to know how fast were you driving at that point in wherever. But there's a lot of data here that I'm pretty sure we know very little about. And then you have personal income. This data is pretty easy to get a hold of. I know when there was a discussion when one of the biggest online payment companies, you can actually, as a merchant, you can ask them what the credit rate was on that specific user. They took that down pretty fast because they realized, I don't think they had realized that this could be used for like recommending expensive products for someone with a high credit rate, living in like a big house somewhere in an expensive area, maybe in Stockholm or whatever, and also that just recently posted a picture of their new 40-foot yacht or something. Yeah, that's good information. If everyone knows it, but you know Blocket, the Craigslist kind of site, yeah. They charge different amount of money for their ads depending on how much users they have on that specific category right now. So if there's a lot of users, they charge more. If it's less users, they charge less. So they are using like the dynamic pricing already, not connected to your personal income, but the ideas are there already. Yeah. And last but not least, personal health. And this is, I mean, for me, I'm an open guy. You know, I don't know about you, but I can be okay with all of this. But when I have my, well, I don't have a maybe this is a smartwatch in 1950 or something, but I don't have a smartwatch. But people running around with smartwatches, I'm not saying you shouldn't. This is, yeah, I saw that you had one. That thing knows exactly how you move. It knows your, well, maybe, I don't know about that one, but it knows your pulse. It knows how your pulse, your heart rate usually is. So, and it knows if you're moving fast. So if I had mine on right now, it would say, hey, you're a little bit stressed because you're doing something that you're not normally doing. Just an example, I have in my family, I have bad hearts, right? So I've had for a couple of days something that measured my heart rate to see if I were in danger in the future. I could just wear a smartwatch and they would know, right? That compared to my depression on Facebook, they would, start recommending me pills to take or whatever. And yeah, as I said, I'm pretty okay with most of this, mainly because I work at a company that are striving to do this in the right way, together with a company that I know for sure that I can trust. That's okay. It's when it comes to other guys that I don't know about, like you don't know me for very much right now. So where is it okay? How far are you okay to go with this? That's my question. For me, I would say if I enter Axel's new site and I could really fast see and purchase the things I like with seamless, purchasing in my cell phone, and just be done with my purchase. That will be perfect. The right clothes, the right size, the right pills, or whatever. That's for me. That's a perfect, online experience. But I'm pretty open with this, so I know that. And also, there have been tests. There has been tests being done. There are tests that has been done, yeah, with this in the US, where Target, the big, grocery store, yeah, they hired a guy who they wanted to see patterns, to be able to present products early stage, like in a life-changing situation, and they started sending out like this list of products home to people that were very, personalized. It didn't work. People didn't buy, because that was intrusive. It was too intrusive for them to buy. So then they started mixing that with total random products, and people bought like, nothing else. So I think there's a level of how far you can go with this before it turns, to a bad idea.